I suppose actually, Becky, with such a sort of small group, it's probably quite useful if we sort of just do a couple of points and then actually just get other people's questions really, because that probably will be a better way to stimulate and make sure everyone gets what they want from this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Obviously, we're here for peak planning with Oliver. Usual things that informal. Obviously, it's a bit of a small group this morning. Hopefully, a couple more people will join us if they creep in. I have started recording. So if anyone doesn't want to be on that recording, just let us know. We do share it with all the people that have signed up. And then we'll share notes after the session. But Ollie, I will pass over to you to give a little intro on peak and
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm talking to a whole lot of experienced retailers, so it's sort of not sort of to go to some of the basics. I suppose first off, I mean, obviously, we're here in the middle of July, and I think the thing I really say with most people is that Christmas probably normally starts the previous Christmas. So I hope that as I come to that, you know, in a way that's where people are coming from, because I think the most important things now are actually just making sure that everything is aligned before we start sort of talking about tactics. And when I sort of talk about alignment, I think there's a number of elements of that. The first thing is actually just making sure that everybody is really clear on what the forecast is for November, December. Now, Rebecca, I don't know off the top of my head quite how Q4 dominated, but my guess is there's probably a pretty heavy upweight to Q4 in your business.
Yes. I would say we're expecting triple sales, for example, from July in November. I don't know what. I'm the founder of Rebecca Udall. I've got a luxury homeware brand. We do linens, but so gifting and Christmas table particularly is a big category for us. We've forecast 3 times sales for example, versus July.
So that. I mean, I think, and probably Rebecca, the thing I would always take on that, and funny, I had a really good conversation with a chocolate business yesterday that we're forecasting a bit more than that. It's obviously quite frightening, to be honest. I would have thought, because that obviously moves on to my next point, which is really the commitment around buying the stock to hit the forecast. And Bertie, I don't know how it works with your business, but aligning that number of what you've got in sort of sales and marketing forecasting with the merchandising is in a way the most important part. And I don't know where how that process is working.
It's exactly the same. We are obviously jewelers, so we have a fairly long lead time, but we have to be putting our December orders in August at the very latest, and then making sure we've got what people want to buy. And it is, again, it's 3 times, maybe a little bit more, 3.5 ideally, November and December. And then we have the Black Friday as well looming, which we never want people to run out of steam for December, and the Christmas presents as well. So it's the tactics around how much do you discount, when do you discount, and that then in eating. So I think that's a huge part of our planning too, because Black Friday now seems to be the whole of November almost.
Exactly. I think Becky, we'll come back to Black Friday particularly, but I suppose to sort of conclude my bit on fundamentals, it's making sure one has a forecast, making sure one has a stock buy that supports the forecast, and then the third element is actually then linked to that forecast, knowing how many new customers are needed, and have you actually allocated enough marketing money in order to achieve the sales forecast. Again, going back to the discussion I had yesterday, which was a really good one, because chocolate, as you may imagine, this is a fresh chocolate business. They have another capacity constraint, which is they can only dispatch really quite close to Christmas. So effectively they have to take all these orders and then send them all out in one bit. and as a result, they have to, they have to physically literally be able to get through the amount of orders they all plan to do. So they've got another constraint. But the conversation point there was really about, if you're aligning new customers and sales and CAC, what should CAC be in Q4? And I think often what I see in businesses that CAC sometimes comes down in Q4. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important, I think, really to check, what happened last year in terms of CAC. Generally most people are seeing costs go up as a sort of base level, but the opportunity of Q4 is often actually further thing, because CAC actually comes down because response rates go up. So costs may go up, but response rates come down. So I think when evaluating, have you got enough marketing money, it's really important to look at what happened to CAC last year, and talk to your agencies or anyone you work with around what's the expectation. But the real thing is not just taking, yearly, the year average number, but actually looking what happens in that November, December part of it. And what that then really opens up often, I find, is greater opportunity in November, December. Now 3 times growth, and Kim, I don't know what you're planning this year, and yours is, I think, less seasonal than Verity's and
exactly.
But sorry, can you say?
No, just saying January is our peak, so it's a strange one. So we're sort of watching everybody, and then trying to see what to do for January as opposed to December, as it was. We're just 1 month ahead or behind.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and actually the great advantages of that, Kim, is most businesses, the costs come down a little bit in January. So you've got a nice thing, but unfortunately costs normally go up in November, December on a CPM type basis. But it's like furniture businesses. Furniture businesses have this wonderful thing of being able to advertise really heavily after Christmas, because it's really cheap to advertise after Christmas, right, and they want Boxing Day sales. So it's a perfect thing for them. But the point I was really going to make there is that actually quite often when one looks at last year and then looks at what's happened to CAC, and then actually then challenges this age-old thing of, are customers worse that come in November, December or not? And generally, and this can obviously all be checked in your retention dashboard, generally they're not substantially worse, particularly when you look at a drop in CAC. And sometimes, and probably 3 times, both for Verity and you, Rebecca, that's probably enough growth, worry to put into the business. Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me? I've rather annoyingly, I'm on my phone, and phone calls come in, but that hasn't affected this.
No, you're all good.
No, okay, cool. Okay, so the point I'm really making there is, sometimes 3 times obviously if that's enough, then just because the business, it feels like too much risk or whatever.
No, I would like to do more. I just I think we could do more, and we are trying to push our peaks more, but and we would have scope to do ×4, but I'm kind of working, and I don't know if this is the wrong way to do it, but based on a percentage growth month on month, kind of adding that same growth. Otherwise, is it over ambitious? Is there an industry average? Do people find that it is ×4 or ×5 in November or December versus other months?
There isn't, as always, and Becky could perhaps come back with, there's no industry average. Effectively, what the guys could help you with is just make sure that you've got your growth model broken down into months, and hence we could verify how many new customers we think you need in November and December.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're working on that in the background, aren't we, Rebecca? That's
Okay.
I'm being a guinea pig.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Testing some
So
of the new
Verity,
templates.
yeah,
Yeah.
Verity, I don't know if that's the same with you or not. But what's really important is to understand, because you've got, the weight of, what you've built up over the last few years is then actually how many new customers do you really need in order to get to whatever that ×3 ×4 number is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's our sticky point, and it's also where our ROAS is. It seems to be all over the place. That we can't. We have I was working with Becky as well, but we have this goal ROAS, but at the moment we are down. It's yo-yoing all summer. So we're finding actually we're wanting to grow. We were steadily growing this year, but it doesn't seem to be able to track consistently to then be like, okay, no, we will hit that in our peak months. So I think that's our worry, is exactly forecasting something that may be too ambitious or is going off this roller coaster ROAS at the moment. So I think what you're saying is actually go back to last year and maybe just focus on those 2 months versus what's happening right now.
Yeah, two things. I would definitely really just go back and have a look at what it is. But what I would then really say is, and Becky could help with this, is just get your growth model and get it broken down into months, so that we've just got some numbers for November, December, because that then drives all the other numbers out of that. And it's scary for any business growing at 3 times. Because it's just when you're sitting in July and maybe things are a bit up and down. To have the faith that actually you can grow at 3 times is takes a bit of getting to sometimes. So I think Becky, if it's great you're working with Rebecca, perhaps we could help with that, and then Kim perhaps for looking at January, what might be a possible. Might be the possible numbers there. So I think, Becky, I've sort of got rather deep into I suppose sort of basic those fundamentals. The other one I always just flag, obviously, is investing in stock normally involves cash, and I'm not a huge fan of cash flow funding, but the one time where, because I don't know if any of you have done a Shopify Pay, take Shopify loans, or Rebecca, you're on Shopify. Sorry, I don't know off the top.
We are.
Yeah. Kim, are you?
No, we're on WooCommerce, but we're moving, and it will be around the January time. So, yeah.
Okay.
Nightmare.
I mean, as you may or may not know, there's Shopify loans that effectively you then have to repay as 17% of your takings in the months afterwards. Now, they're not hugely cheap, but what I like about them, obviously, that gives you cash flow. What I hate about them is that you're paying back so much of it so quickly that actually the benefit of them is reduced. But at Christmas time, hopefully your sales go up, your cash comes flowing in, and hence it's not quite so risky, I feel, in terms of looking at those, and they're really easy to do in Shopify. I mean, I don't know, Rebecca or Verity, whether you've done that ever before.
No, I don't think we would look into that for cash flow.
No, I wouldn't do that. I don't know if it is helpful. One thing, with the business is 5 years old this year, so I'm at a point finally where I've got a bit more understanding of, because we have a very wide category of products. Based on the sales growth for this year, we've kind of looked at it by category and said, okay, we saw excellent table loss last year, we've done the same growth, but we're also expanding the colours. So I kind of added a lift to that again. But where I've worked with certain manufacturers for nearly 5 years now, my key manufacturer, I put into production in January and February and March all the stock that I needed for this year, and basically I'm on a drawdown so that I have no where my normal lead time might be 2 to 3 months. And the bigger retailers, so they also work like the White Company and Harrods, because I'm a smaller customer for them, they go into peak production period July onwards. So naturally I'm not the most important customer to manufacturer for if they have last minute orders. So that's helped me. And I've also so they're holding the stock for me, and then I've got 90-day payment terms. So I've got some flexibility there. So a worst case scenario, I pay for it in March next year. And that's helped us massively. And it also helps the manufacturer, because I can then say that I can push that product more in our press releases and our content over Christmas, because they've given me that flexibility, rather than kind of pushing products where I maybe have to pay 2 months ahead of, or at point of order, and then wait 6 months for the stock. So strategically I'm making decisions like that with what we try and push in our Christmas, what products we push. The other thing that we started using, which I'm finding really helpful, alongside Sweet, is Inventory Planner. So it's now still owned, it's part of Bright Pearl. But for our forecasting, I like I'm naturally quite good at maths, and I like if I can kind of come to the same conclusion via 2 methods. So kind of our growth model is telling us one thing, and then Inventory Planner will look at your forecast. So it's a merchandising and buying software ultimately, but it will also forecast sales based on the trends in your business. And we're using that a lot. So we can, for example, tag, because it's not relevant to everyone, but because we have such broad category of product, and although we push timeless products, there is a trend element to it. So we're tagging products on Shopify to pull into our merch. So we're tagging the style of, colors, price point. We're also tagging, so we've got we've kind of categorized products as like A, B, or C margins. So for my finance, I can see how much of the kind of the good products we really want to sell, what proportion of sales are that, how much newness is, so we can pull really easily. We can just save reports monthly, and it takes us 5 minutes to, and it's really, really good.
I'm really intrigued by that. Are you just doing that with the Shopify tag on every SKU, on every product page in the?
Yes, so there's
a custom tag
an app. Yeah, Inventory Planner is a separate. So Inventory Planner feeds into Shopify. So it's like Sweet, that it pulls all your data, and you can, for sales, you could put in the next 30 days. What is it forecasting in terms of sales? Think scale 30 days, 60 days for the next 365 days, and with that kind of matching up with Sweet in our growth model, that gives me some reassurance. So on the tagging, we will put, for example, like _ tag. Again, as we've got bed, bath, table, home decor categories. So we just tag, and then Inventory Planner will pull those tags, and you can see over by month, quarter. It's really good.
Rebecca, I think I'm a sort of recent convert to Inventory Planner. So if you don't mind, I might separately ping you and just have a chat about it. But I think, Verity, I don't know how you or Kim, I don't know how you do your merchandise planning, but I think it's the key things of life are having the right amount of stock. I've always said that, and I think anything that highlights, helps you with that is massively powerful. So Verity, very happy. Perhaps Becky, again on the notes, we could just, if you're interested, Verity, we could introduce you to Inventory Planner. Actually, Becky, we've got that 4-minute video, Becky. Actually, we'll send you a short video about it.
That would be amazing. Just because we have our SKU count is vast, and we obviously bring newness in every year, and we try and drip feed our newness throughout the year. But then obviously it's not dropping at peak time. So then you're trying to get a gauge whether this is what someone wants, if it's going to launch. But then you've not got the volume of sessions coming. So you're not quite getting a true glance, and then Christmas comes and a complete curveball. People are buying, and we're like, where did you even find that? We haven't even promoted that, and they're trying to buy it in their bucket load. So and then obviously we don't have the
Yeah.
stock behind it. And I just find Shopify that our planning is on SKUs of what could go.
I think
it's hard.
Yeah, I
I
guess
think
the
it's
nice
really
thing is you
interesting.
can use that information. I mean, obviously, Rebecca, you're tagging loads of products for Inventory Planner, but you can use all that information in Suite as well and look at audiences, and that's probably next step really on kind of then looking at what, whatever you're tagging those products as, are they driving higher lifetime value? Is it bringing in the volume that you want to, or whatever it may be. So that's the benefit of having those tags all on Shopify, is they're working on both systems, which is great. So it's kind of hitting both sides for us, really. It's really helping in terms of merchandising, and then you're actually able to look at customer journey and value from there as well.
So we're probably, Becky, sorry, being a bit distracted into here, but I think it's a really important I mean, it starts on the fundamentals topic. So I think maybe Becky, we even ask Inventory Planner to come and we might do a session on stock planning, and Rebecca, I might have a quick separate chat with you, because what we're doing on another brand is we're effectively putting the growth model forecasts in on a monthly basis, and then actually looking at different scenarios with different things, which I think is the other real benefit of Inventory Planner. I mean, going back to your point, could you do 4 times or 3 times? Inventory Planner gives you that visibility. And the final pitch for them, and what I really love, and I don't know, Rebecca, whether you like this or not, is their out of the cost of out of stock metrics.
Yes.
So because I think so often the other thing that you don't understand, and this goes back to even understanding last year, is potential that sometimes happens because of out of stocks. And it's a relatively simple calc they use, but it is just, out of stocks are just so expensive. And I think being able to evaluate what the potential impact of those is, I don't know, Rebecca, whether you like that bit or not, but it's certainly one brand I'm looking at it with. I think it's a key metric that comes out.
Yes, no, I think that is very good. And also, if you have, it has an open to buy calculator for you. So if you have, I don't know, £20,000, and it wants you, really you could be spending 40, but you only want to spend 20, it will prioritize that for you based on the margin. And basically what will add the most benefit to the business, which because we don't have a merchandiser in house. My background's kind of basic buying and merchandising, and some merchandising is common sense, but I think Inventory Planner is really good to help with that.
Okay, gosh. But Becky, you probably better bring us back a little bit back to Becky. Becky had about 94,000 questions to ask on this, and how many of you are so far, Becky?
Well, you got through your main thing, which was obviously working back to forecast. But I know we mentioned Black Friday earlier. Should we talk about level of discount? Because I think that's always a question that's on people's mind, is how deep to go on discounting this time of year. And I think there's definitely a bit of a trend that people don't want to discount as much over Black Friday. But Oliver and I were talking sort of yesterday, and it's almost you've got to a little bit, I think, to compete in some of the areas, but obviously very much dependent on your sector and what's happening over that time. But
I think for me there's one particular trend which is sort of effectively exacerbated. I mean, I think really confirmed last year, and I don't know what date you launched Black Friday last year, but there is absolutely no doubt that it starts the weekend before. That is an absolute, and it definitely goes beyond the Monday. Now, I'd say people are a little bit stricter about ending on the Monday, because obviously it gives you a hard close on the Monday. But the general point is that it's a longer period, and for fashion businesses, to be honest, I think it starts even earlier than that. So, I mean, Patch, I don't know what did you do? Verity, what did you do last year? What were
We
your
went
dates?
about the 17th, so we did about 10-ish days early. And I think we're going to go earlier this year and do a lot of lead gen stuff on our ads. So just kind of go back to like sign up for exclusive early access on our kind of paid media, I think is where we're currently looking to do, just to kind of get the emails in and get, instead of trying to fight through the noise, to at least get sign up and get synced out of our ads that way, because then it gets too noisy and too expensive for us during Black Friday. Like we'll put a few out, but we won't then compete heavily. And we'll just use mainly email and on-site and just do a straight solid 20% off for the whole duration and then stop hard on the Monday. Yeah, we found we've done a few years where we've incrementally increased it over the time, but found we were losing people because they're waiting for something better. They're constantly waiting. So I think our messaging this year is going to go early, almost 10th of November. I think we were floating around, and just go for 3 weeks.
That's a week earlier than last year.
Yeah, and I think we're
It's
looking
quite
to just.
interesting though, because Black Friday is quite late this year, isn't it? I think the Cyber Monday ends up falling into December. It is probably, the timing we hate the most for retailers.
We've seen it as you get an extra week in December this year. So I think you've got a full 4 weekend December for us, which is crucial to get them out orders, because you can then get orders to them before Christmas, which for us, we play a lot on the last minute gifts for men buying for their wives. So we're like, well, let's take that discount as far as we can in November, to then go hard on the gifting come December and make that very much like gift guidey and gift and more luxury feel for December, and see if that works. So that we've got our discount sale who come, they're doing that in November, and then do more kind of add-on discounts in. So like reach £100 and get a free jewelry case. So I think that would be our kind of promotion in December versus the longer Black Friday. But yeah, you're never quite sure.
Rebecca, no, it's hard. I mean, I must be, Rebecca, just let's just do days and sorry, Kim, I apologize. I feel we're rather. Is there anything you want to? Is that before I ask Rebecca about Black Friday dates? What did you do? What do you do on Black Friday?
Yeah, I think we just have to do something because everyone else is, and we find there's about 3 times a year that we can just do a general sale. We're slightly different because we're not worrying about the Christmas sales, and food supplements aren't really a gifting idea, and unless we can persuade them that they are, giving people good health for Christmas.
I feel the strap line written already, Kim.
Yeah, that sounds like my grandmother giving me a sort of a dodgy scarf for because she's worried about me getting cold.
I think you've got better stuff for that. And Rebecca, what did you do last year?
We started on we just did Wednesday to Monday, so 2 days before Black Friday. And I feel like it doesn't resonate with our brand, doesn't resonate with a lot of brands, but I think you've got to do something, otherwise people go and buy gifts elsewhere sometimes. But we will stick to 3 or 4 days, I think.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Becca, I obviously, respect any decision you make. I think I would, the evidence that we saw, so I did a decent analysis on a particular brand that extended. So effectively, what they've done over the last few years is they've, as we know, we've, instead of moving it from, effectively Thursday night to Monday, it's effectively moved earlier and earlier. In the particular homeware brand I looked at, it did work out as being better to have added the extra days.
More profitable, so more sales, but
more sales. So I think, again, I'm talking in the generic here, but with a specific homeware example. I think it's worth just thinking about and perhaps even just being ready, Rebecca, for I don't know who you see as your key competitors, but if all your key competitors have gone on the Sunday. And my take on life is that most people were pushed back to the Sunday last year. I think I would certainly be prepared for that, just because I think you potentially might miss out if you found all your competitors have gone the whole week.
Yeah,
Now,
no,
That's what we found.
Yeah.
We felt fallen into that trap, I think, 2 years ago, and we weren't ready, and everyone else was going, and we were like, oh, we've really missed out. And then you just don't get through the noise almost then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're trying to do a kind of come join our sneaky early access situation, and then see if that kind of cuts through. But yeah, it's as soon as anyone, it's so competitive that as soon as anyone on your Instagram, you see a 20% off, and if you're not showing that to your customers, you've lost them instantly. So yeah, we find that helps.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, Rebecca. I mean, I think it's definitely worth thinking about days, and particularly about preparing. I think is probably the that you can go early if you want to. I think that's probably where. I think discount levels, just talking to people, and it's always a difficult thing. I'm not hearing any noise of people going deeper on discounts, particularly as a trend. I think probably, Kim, like everyone realizes they have to play, they have to have a discount, but I'm not hearing everyone going, well, gosh, I was 20% this year, I need to be 30%. Sorry, the 20% last year, I need to be 30%. I'm not seeing particular increased discount drift. And I've probably spoken to about 5 or 6 people directly about that. So again, I don't know what your own thoughts are, but I don't at the moment see a trend in increase of discount level.
No, exactly. We've just had an event. The company was set up by my father, and we had this what we call Founders Day. He died 4 years ago, and so we sort of, as he set the company up, we like to have this birthday sort of scenario, and we do it twice a year.
Because he had 2 birthdays.
Well, no, there's a story behind the company, but I'll go in that, and so we use that as well. And that's our sort of Black Friday, and it's unbelievable. We're only doing 10%, but we 5 times our sales on that one day alone. One of the other problems with Black Friday scenario over weekends are always our worst times. Other businesses, that's obviously great when everybody's sitting at home and thinking about what they need for the home. But our business is dead at the weekend. You just look at a graph and you can tell which ones are the weekends. It's pretty obvious. So the weekend isn't particularly good, but it'd be great to sort of double the sales over the weekend. That'd be lovely. But 10% is good enough. It seems to be. But maybe then it needs to be a bit more, 20% or something like that for Black Friday.
I don't think it necessarily has to be thought of like that. Yeah, I mean, Rebecca, what's your view on where you are on discounts?
We
thinking detail.
Yeah, for Black Friday, we've previously done 20% off if you're on the newsletter, 15% on the website, and we will probably stick to that, or if we do longer, maybe do 10% off on the website and 15% if you're on the newsletter.
Yeah. Rebecca, are you doing a catalogue this year or not?
No.
No.
We haven't kind of got the preparation behind us to do a catalogue at the moment.
No. Because that's the other bit that obviously then drives these early decisions, is if people are doing catalogues. That's the and Kim, we obviously met on catalogue day. So it's just another element of planning, because exactly that. If you're not doing catalogues, you don't actually have to make a decision until the week before or whatever. But I think the general point here is that I don't think I'm seeing a massive increase in discounts, which I would have said a couple of years ago. I would say, people's 10% were drifting to 15s to 20s. I don't feel I'm now having conversations where people are going, gosh, I'm going the next level down. It's probably where I'm overall. I'd say I'm seeing things. So Becky, if that's covered sort of Black Friday timing and perhaps discount levels. Before we sort of start to throw out another question, is there anything else? But Becky's got a million questions, by the way, so don't feel you have to ask a question. But is there anything specific that anyone wants to cover here?
Just briefly, you just touched on like mail out and kind of direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And is that still working? As in, we do them for Black Friday, but it's never. Well, obviously, it's harder to measure and everything. But we're always like, is it worth it? Are we getting that return? Are the repeat customers coming back from that, or are they just? Is email stronger? And like for us as a small team, it's just investment of time, as you say. You have to get these things right. And we're like, is that worth it?
I think gosh, Kim and I met.
I know, so sorry, giant question, probably not for now.
No, it's an important question. And Becky, again, perhaps we could talk to Verity about looking at specific results. But I was looking at a homeware brand yesterday where we're having exactly that conversation, and they do a September mailing and a November mailing. Yeah. And the cold lists in September are much more difficult to justify. And even though if you look at the long-term value, that 2 mailing strategy does tend to work. Yeah. But again, we were looking at non-mail controls set up on that example, and in the examples I was looking at, we got more than double the response from the sectors that were mailed compared to the non-mail controls, and from a financial perspective, particularly on Housefile, that was massively. Made it massively profitable. I think the Verity, I don't know your numbers, I'm afraid, off the top of my head, but the thing that really comes back is the sort of cost per hassle. If you're doing this in a small way, then it's a lot of hassle for a relatively small number. But I mean, as a generic, I mean, numbers I was looking at yesterday, their cold list had a 0.4 response in September and a 1.24 response in November, and the message on that was, well, let's double down into, let's spend any cold lists we did in September, let's double them all down into November, which again is, you use that, I think, Hammersley line, Rebecca, doubling down on your peak or whatever. Like a lot of things, I think, one doesn't like to put it all into peak, but peak is important, and you get better bang for your buck generally. But my top line view, Verity and Becky, perhaps if you can pick up. Overall, DM is working for most of the brands that we're working with and see. Kim, have you done anything yet on DM?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, it was just you're talking about a 38-year-old company, so it really was just DM. To start with, and that is still brilliant. But then we have an older demographic. I can't emphasize enough that it's a 54 to 64 and older demographic, and they still appreciate that. And it's to put it into context, we still have a good percentage, maybe 6% of our customers don't even have an email address. So you've got to sort of analyze. It's a very different business to get to them. And recently we suddenly realized our very best customers have never reviewed our products because they don't get sent the email telling them to review it. So we sent out a letter and asked them if they would handwrite a review. And we I'm saying we only sent out 100, but we got about 60 back, and that's brilliant, and we just translate it straight into a review, and that's it. It's off. But yeah, people are still asking for that. They like something to sit and look through, and it's. I think there's still a lot of scope there, but it's expensive. And I think what I learned from that, the direct marketing approach when I went to that talk was very much the figure I remember. It cost you to get 30,000 new customers, it will cost you £15,000. I hope I've got that round the right way, because it's 30,000 to get 15. But it's not cheap, but it's an alternative. And recently I've looked at things where I'm seeing how much people are spending, and then they're talking about Facebook, and then they're talking about Google, and then they're talking about other. And I look at that and think, wow, that's quite high for other. So it must be direct mail going out.
Yeah, I think Kim, I mean, I think exactly that, Verity. I think worth looking at exactly the detail of your things, but broadly, yes, as Kim says, I think we're in favour. And the other thing that I've again been involved in a bit recently, slightly different type of business, so beauty business. So it's the first sort of detailed programmatic DM that I've been involved in. So sort of postcard linked to a specific trigger, and that has again produced some good results. So again, finding or even just a sort of small postcard mailing, finding nuggets in your database that probably should have responded is another thing that I'm beginning to see a bit on that.
Which I'll make a point here, which is, again, I learned from that thing, which is just remember that mailer is in someone's hand and possibly in their house for up to 7 days. And so it's sitting in front of them. How many times can you get an eye shot of something for 7 days? You've got an email which takes 100th of a second, that's sitting there. And if it's something that they quite like, or possibly someone else in the household likes, then you've got two eyes on it.
Yeah, there's some quite interesting data around this from, I can't remember the source, Oliver, off the top of my head.
Jitmail, the Jitmail stuff.
Jitmail looks a lot of this, how long direct mail sticks around in the house, and then how many people it's likely to interact with, and it's really interesting stuff. And I think that's why, there's such a push on testing creative with direct mail as well. Everything with Sweet will be pushing testing with audiences, but also on the creative side there, it's really interesting to see what kind of sticks around. I'm just aware of time, Oliver, because we're very much creeping up to the end there. If there's closing points or closing questions.
One more, has anyone got a closing question? I suppose that's more important than me giving closing points.
All good. You covered lots.
No, good. I mean, I hope that was helpful for everyone. Becky, I think you had about 19 more questions, so we obviously haven't covered everything on it. I think our next session is on GA4 a year later, which is next week. And I think we've got Edward from Little Data joining us. And I think there's some interesting perspectives around the new Klaviyo thing that everyone's pushing via server side. I don't know if that's topics that you guys have covered, but I think we'll have some interesting stuff on that next week. So if you are around, we'd love to see you. So Becky, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've covered it. Joining Breakfast Club next week. I think it will be an interesting one with Little Data there, and obviously Oliver is very keen on the GA4 side as well. So lots to discuss there. I'll reach out to a couple of you that we've had sort of questions and actions from. And we'll share around some notes as well. But thank you everyone for joining. I hope that was useful. I think we definitely need a second session on peak planning, because there are millions of questions we had last year and other things that we wanted to cover. But I hope this was useful for everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Really great. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thanks everyone. Bye, guys.
Everyone.
See you.
Take care.
Bye.